Ivory Coast, which grows at about 9% in average for the last 5 years, and South Africa growing at about 1%. So again, depending on where you look at, you have more growth than elsewhere, but overall, it is still growing faster than most regions in the world. So that's a very important dynamic to keep in mind. The second very important dynamic is the population. So again, I was telling you that already today, 1 in 6 people in the world are coming from Africa, so 1.2 billion people, but by 2050, this will be the population is going to double. We'll have 2.4 billion people living in Africa. And by the end of the century,
that's amazing. And it's very young population, right?
Yeah.
And it's very young.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, and also a very young population.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference. People are very young everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So so that's a very, very, very strong dynamic. And for example, myself as an entrepreneur and investor, it's very important because it means that sectors like FMCG, sectors like construction are going to boom, because at some point those people are going to need to eat. They are going to need places to live. So I mean, if you invest in anything connected to that, you are in a pretty good position to be successful. Another very important dynamic in Africa is digital. I mean, Africa is a digital continent. I mean, everybody has a cell phone there, more and more a smartphone. So this has huge consequences on business. The first consequence is that with the mobile, they are getting into the banking system. So before mobile, you had like all those people from the bottom of the pyramid who were kind of completely excluded from the system. They could not buy anything electronically. They could not have any kind of loan. They could not do anything needing any kind of financial means. But today, thanks to that, you are having like millions of people who are getting into the banking system. This will have a massive impact on everything, because now they will start to consume the kind of thing that they were not consuming before. Now they will be able to get loans and grow their businesses. So this will have huge consequences. One other thing I want to tell you about the dynamic is also that Africa, unlike what people think, is also much more peaceful. I mean, today you have much less wars in the continent than before. So obviously on the news, they will always talk about those specific countries where there is war, but overall in Africa, there are very, very, very few places where you have war. So that's a very, very important dynamic to keep in mind as well. And one last thing about the dynamic, there is a very important project going on at the moment, which is the Continental Free Trade Zone. As I said at the beginning, you have 55 countries in Africa, but I mean, today those 55 countries are not connected to each other. I mean, business-wise, those are separated markets. Okay, you do have some regional markets. I won't get into that kind of complexity, but what you should keep in mind is that today, all of these countries are like separated. If you have a plant operating in Côte d'Ivoire, FMCG plant, basically, if you want to sell what you manufacture in Côte d'Ivoire to a neighboring country or to a country a little bit farther, you have to pay taxes today because the markets are completely separated. So there is this project of making like a unified kind of market of all Africa, which is pretty advanced. So if it gets through, and I think it's going to get through, this will be a massive game changer, because then investors will be able to think in terms of 1.2 billion people to address, instead of thinking of only the population of a given country. So this should have a massive impact on foreign direct investment, I think. So, so that's pretty much in a nutshell what you need to know about Africa. There is a lot more to say, but if you have to keep something, it's just that. With that, you already know whether you are interested as an investor or as a student to go to Africa or not.
Thank you, Yves. Thank you so much, guys. Now we have 8 minutes for questions. Well, more, a bit more, 9 minutes.
I, I have one.
Sure.
Thank you. Um, Thank you, Yves. A great speech, great talk. So we were talking before about the black racism between African people the and the fact that there is an ego fight between each tribe.
Okay.
That was Jake who was sharing this point. So
You got
I feel
impressed with
like,
that, right?
by knowing this information, I feel that it would be very difficult for someone or a country um, to lead the African country together and to bring them as one continent.
So what's your question?
So my question is, knowing that, if I share that information with you, what would you say? This transformation is possible. Okay, it's a good thing to do, but is it really possible? On
Okay, two things. One thing, I don't think that people are fighting because of tribes in Africa. I don't think so. I mean, there is a country, Somali, to tell you. Somali, I mean, in Somali, you have only one tribe in this country. One tribe, one language, one religion, but still they are fighting for like 30 years. It's the only African country still in war for like 30 years. You don't have any tribe kind of problem there. What I want to say is that tribe generally in Africa is just a pretext to fight. It is instrumentalized. If there were no tribe, it will be something else. It will be something else. So I don't think tribe is specific, is that much of an issue. See what I mean? It's just a pretext to fight. Then the second thing I want to say, being here in France, I mean, when you do a community like they did in Europe and like what we want to do in Africa, you always have leaders. It's not like one country. It's not any country that will take the lead. And generally, the leaders are the largest countries. So Africa, it will be no different. If this continental free trade zone is going to get through, it will be because Nigeria, South Africa, and probably Egypt will want it to happen. With those three, you already have more than 50% of the GDP of all Africa. So basically, I can tell you, if those three agree, and I can tell you that at least South Africa and Nigeria, they really want it to happen. I mean, countries like my country, like Cameroon, we'll just have to accept. See what I mean? Just like in
Just sign that paper.
Germany,
yeah,
got together, all the rest had to follow.
but get the Egyptian and the South African working together.
So Egypt is a bit of a different thing. So this is probably the tricky thing because it is in between Africa and Middle East. So the only question mark I have is, but actually it can work without Egypt. It can work without Egypt.
If it goes to the sub-Saharan Africa group, right?
Yeah, and I think the other North African countries will be, they are bullish about it. Morocco is bullish about it. Even Algeria is bullish about it. The only difficult thing will be I think Egypt.
Okay. Aisha, you have a question?
Yeah,
Thank you, Yves.
I just want to just a quick point on what Alex raised and what Yves responded to. So I think in terms of the tribal disputes that we have, tribal and religion in Africa is largely based on the leadership problems that we have. And leadership problems because they've kind of capitalized on those things to achieve, their own self-interest. But in terms of the continental trade agreements, just speaking to what I've spoke about, shortly after that discussion came about, Nigeria closed its borders to all the African countries because they wanted to grow inward. They wanted to promote more locally made products. So when you take it back, it still goes back to the leadership problem that we're dealing with in Africa. You have countries with spent so many years coming together to say that, yes, we've come to the time where we think trade agreement is right for us. And then each person goes back to their country and would do something totally different from what they have agreed. It was just few days after those agreements came on board that Nigeria closed all of its borders to every neighboring country to stop imports of products. And then you ask, where is the sincerity of these initiatives coming from? So the political class have found a way to weaponize things like religion, tribal issues, for self-interest, for whatever reason. So while we might be optimistic that we would see some form of African Union coming soon, I think it's also good for somebody like Alex to know that you can be apprehensive as to what is the right timing for this to happen based on the sincerity of the leadership that we see in Africa today.
Well, you're absolutely right, Aisha. What I can say for sure, because again, in my previous job, I was organizing a very large business conference called the Africa CEO Forum, where we were gathering like 1,000 of the top leaders from the business from all Africa, the Dangotes and all those guys. And what I can tell you is that those guys are really pushing for this continental free trade zone to happen, really pushing. And those are the guys financing the political guys. So there will be bumps in the road for sure, but I think that the dynamic is there and it's going to happen. Is it going to happen next year or in 5 years? I don't know. But really, the business community is really is behind it today.
Thank you, Yves. Guys, we have 3 more questions, so I'll ask you to be brief in the question so that Yves can also be brief in the answer, okay? Because we have just very few minutes, just 3 minutes. So Bader first, if you can be brief.
Hi, Yves. Thank you for being here. In your opinion, how hard is it for non-African person to enter the market? Or what are the barriers here over there as well?
As a matter of fact, I mean, you have lots of non-Africans doing business in Africa, actually. You have a huge Lebanese community doing exceptional business in Africa. You have a huge Indian community in East Africa doing a lot of business in Africa. I myself, I will probably buy a company from a French entrepreneur in West Africa, because in Francophone Africa, you have a lot of French actually who started great companies there. So you already have lots of foreigners doing business in Africa. I don't see anything complicated with that.
Cool, thank you.
And by the way, as a foreigner, you even have an advantage on the locals. Generally, you have better facilitated access to capital, because one problem Africa has is that access to capital is very expensive. So if you are able to come and get capital from abroad, you have an advantage over the locals actually.
Thank you, Germaine, and then Jade. Very briefly.
So my question is similar to his. I guess, how does someone from the outside look for opportunities in different countries to invest in? Like, what would be your approach if you were someone that, again, I've only been to Africa one time, and so I don't have a lot of experience or context, but I am excited about what the continent has to offer, and I want to take advantage of it. So what's a good place to start and to build those connections and look for future opportunities?
Okay, this depends it depends on the countries you are targeting. So first of all, you need to know where you want to go. And I think this cannot only be about business. Where you want to go, it should be a place where you feel like you can live there, where maybe you know people there. First of all, you need to target a region. Once you target it, frankly, those countries are not huge. Even a country like Nigeria, I'm not Nigerian, but just by doing like three trips there, I was able to kind of get the right connections. Those countries are not, the business communities of all of those countries is really small, really small. So if you get there with maybe the contacts of your embassy, or maybe if you have a friend with whom you did your business school with, very rapidly you will get introduced to pretty high level kind of people. myself, I mean, I'm nobody, but I already had meeting with Dangote, with Jim Ovia. I mean, those billionaires. I mean, relatively easily, because again, I use my embassy. I use a few people that I know, and I mean, all those guys are connected. So really, it's not difficult. It's not difficult to get the right connections and start a business in Africa.
Thank you, Yves. Last question, quickly, from Jade.
All right. I think the idea of search funds is very new to Africa. So
Yes.
I would like to know what kind of industries you're targeting and why you're targeting those industries.
Yeah, no, actually, I will be the first in the first traditional search fund in West Africa and almost in Sub-Saharan Africa. There was one actually in Kenya, but she didn't acquire a company at the end. So hopefully, I will be the first one to acquire a company through search fund in Sub-Saharan Africa. Yes, so I'm targeting B2B service, which is like pretty standard, pretty classic in for search funds. And generally, they look for B2B service, but B2B service that are more or less, rather more linked to FMCG or construction, because I think that FMCG and construction sectors are going to grow fast. I mean, for a very long time in Africa, because of the population that is going to double. So for example, I will look at a company, I don't know, doing elevators, for example, because it's B2B, but is directly linked to construction. So if the construction market goes up, then my elevator business will go fast as well. Or I will look for a company selling equipments for FMCG industries or packaging for FMCG industries. This is the kind of business I'm looking at.
Thank you so much, Yves. We don't have much more time. I don't know if you mind if I share your contact with them.
No problem.
So they can contact you and your LinkedIn profile too. I'll share with them in the WhatsApp group. Okay, guys. And just to finish our class, I would like to hear from you, Yves, in just one word. What is your checkout? What do you take from your experience today? And all of you guys, I ask you to write in the chat. You know, what are your
from
takeaway?
Experience today.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, first of all, I'm quite surprised by the diversity of the crowd that I'm seeing here. When you invited me, I was expecting to have like a bunch of Brazilians and Spanish guys, but really, I mean, it's really diverse.
Yeah. That's IE. IE is really, really diverse.
Yeah, and people seems to be young. I mean, they don't hesitate to speak their mind. So
yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations. Very good kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for coming. Guys, let me just read your checkout here to Yves for him. This is, what the students wrote about the session today, Yves. And so, look, Germain, exciting. Camilo, opportunity. Alexander, potential. Ferran, opportunities. Leo, development. Aisha, Africa, land of opportunities. Jade, thanks a lot. Ali, interesting. Good luck, Yves, for you.
Thanks.
Bader, opportunities. Ajit, the future. Francisco, opportunities. Joan, opportunities. Avinash, great to know and meet Yves. Alexandre Tasso, where to launch in Africa? That's a big question. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, guys. I see you in a couple of days. Yves, talk to you soon.
Speak
Bye-bye.
soon, Newton. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Newton. Great class.
Thank you.